Well, hello and welcome to episode 98. We're getting close to 100 here of the Untitled Themed Entertainment Design Show. I'm your host, Andy Garfield. Patrick has a day off today, and I'm very happy to welcome my friend and yours, Justin Martin, to the show. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Andy. 98. I can't believe you guys have been doing this long.
I know it's been over 4 years now, so it's
Yeah, that's crazy.
a
Well,
lot. Yeah,
congrats. I'm excited for two more episodes away.
yeah. So yeah, I think our 100th episode is going to be sort of like the greatest hits and walk down memory lane and have some of our early guests back on and some of our collaborators and behind the scenes folks
Yeah.
that have been with us since the early days, the
Yeah.
COVID
Yeah.
days.
For real. Well, early congratulations to you
Oh,
and
thank you,
Patrick and everybody else behind the scenes on that crazy achievement.
thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, when we started doing it back in March of 2020, I never thought it would go on so long and become
Yeah.
this TETV juggernaut that we have now.
Yeah, no, it's gotten big. Like the amount of guests that I watch you guys just about every week at this point when it comes on, and the amount of like education I've gotten, even been in the industry for a minute, has been great. Just seeing other people and all that stuff. So hopefully we can add to the list today on some of that.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like you and I have known each other for a long time now. Like, I'd say at least 10 years,
Yeah,
and just been working on projects together or hanging out at mixers and parties at IAPA and all that good stuff.
yeah,
And, but, it's funny. We ended up talking about, just life, the universe and everything, so I really don't know quite a lot about some of the specific projects that you've worked on. So we're happy to have that conversation with you today.
yeah, yeah. No, likewise. It's exciting. I always like talking about the projects that I've gotten to be a part of, mainly because I've been very fortunate to work on some really cool stuff and with some amazing teams. And just love being able to like share some projects that maybe people don't know that I've worked on or that are even out there.
Yeah.
And also to just like kind of in this case, we'll talk a little bit about art direction and creative direction and like design and stuff. But for a lot of students that are and people even just breaking into the industry, how you get from maybe an early job and kind of work your way to a position that you're looking for, whether that is art director or whatever that is. So I'm excited to kind of chat a little bit about that and hopefully bestow some knowledge onto everybody.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the show is to
Yeah.
dispense knowledge and other people's experience and to learn from other people's experience and mistakes and successes and failures but well, let's get into it. Like,
Yeah.
let's go back to like teenage Justin.
Yeah. Oh man.
What did 14-year-old Justin want to do and how'd you get where you are today?
Yeah, no, teenage Justin is almost actually even a little too far. I would almost say.
Oh,
I grew up in New Jersey on the East Coast now, out here on the West Coast now, but yeah, grew up in New Jersey and was very fortunate to have parents that were like very into like just letting me like try everything. And so my mom, I give her all the credit in the world, with like we were close to Manhattan, so we'd be able to pop in every so often and go see a show on Broadway. And that was like, okay, starting to get some interest in theater and the arts. So fell in love with at an early age with Phantom of the Opera. May it rest in peace in New York. But
it'll be back.
It'll be back, yeah, in some form. But doing those kinds of activities, whether it be going to the theater or working on our shows at middle school and high school and whatnot, but really getting into theme parks. Obviously around me, I'm surrounded by all this theme park memorabilia that I've gathered over the years. You started really with going to Disney World at a young age. I think I was about 4 or 5 when it was probably my first trip. And my mom, always tells the story of like, oh, when I was younger, what do you want to be when you grow up? And for me, it was always, I want to work at Disney World. And at like 5 years old, you don't really know exactly
Right.
what that means, whether that be, in operations or any of that stuff. But it was very clear that like I was fascinated by just like the, transportive nature that the theme park, created, and being able to go from, the realistic day to day to this like world of fantasy, and really just became infatuated with that to the point where, I think I tweeted out on my Instagram or my Twitter a couple weeks ago, like a couple sketches that I had done when I was like 10, and they were, like, if I was going to design a Disney theme park, what would this look like? To bless my dad's heart, he over the years of going to Disney World, they used to sell like little toy models of different like rides, so like Space Mountain and Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
It was like my one souvenir every year going to Disney World. And after a while, I had amassed this like collection of Disney theme park rides. So he built this big table in the basement that I was able to just like build my own little Disney World on. And like that, Hours on Roller Coaster Tycoon, all of that stuff really just started to begin this like obsession with obviously the Disney parks, and then what eventually grew to just theme parks in general. It just really had this love of wanting to be in themed entertainment, and that's really all I've ever wanted to do, which is crazy now being in it and doing the thing. I have to pinch myself sometimes, whether it be in the design phase or standing on site of a project, and you're like, holy cow, like I've done this, like this, we did it. Younger Justin would probably, not believe where we're at today.
Or he'd be like, well, yeah, of course.
Or of course, exactly. Yeah, like I did this or made this in Roller Coaster Tycoon. Of course, this is what we were going to be doing.
Right.
But yeah, no, it really has been, the one track dream, mindset that I've had my whole life of doing themed entertainment. And over the years, that's broadened out to, just theme parks. And then it went to, doing museums or traveling stuff or live entertainment to, sports entertainment complexes, all over the place that I've been able to be a part of. But, it's that world of immersive and all the buzzwords you can use, but in themed entertainment that has really just, had a hold on me and will not let go.
Well, that's it. So you did work in operations at Disney World, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I went to Savannah College of Art and Design
That's right.
started in 2011, fall 2011. I always get the year mixed up. And anyways, I started down there. And again, growing up, started to become just obsessed with knowing anything about Disney or themed entertainment as a whole. And so I remember in high school, I had heard about the Disney college program, and I was like, I desperately want to do this. I get to go live down in Orlando. I get to work at the park. I really wanted to work at, Haunted Mansion or Great Movie Ride at the time. And I was just like, this is, I can't wait to do this. So my freshman year, I first like few weeks of being in school, I applied for the college program and went through the few interview rounds and got in, which, I was actually talking to my wife the other day. It's actually kind of crazy that like a lot of people tend to do the college program a little later in their college career. And I was like 2 quarters into being in school, and I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going to work down at Disney World for a semester. Which is pretty crazy, but it was just the passion of wanting to be involved in some way. So yeah, went down and worked on the Disney College program, April of 2012. And I was in operations for Splash Mountain, which now Tiana's Bayou Adventure, and really learned I should say the main reason for me wanting to do it, aside from like, cool, I get to work at for the Disney company, was like, I realized if I'm going to design this stuff, I should probably have an idea of like how some of this stuff works, like operations. How does the attraction just function? What are the necessities to build something like in this case a Splash Mountain. And that was the best hands-on experience I could have had. Getting down there and understanding, the different positions, load, unload, dispatch, tower, merge point, all that stuff, and understanding like where's the break room, how much space is allocated for, a maintenance bay, where are we going to send the logs and stuff. So learning and like I'm not out there with the tape measure, doing this stuff, but like starting to think like, okay, well these are things we have to account for that I might not have really thought about, going into the design stages of my career, and then understanding like, how much room do people need, this and that. I always joked when we were at Splash that summer, I believe was one of the years that they added the lap bars for the Disney World attraction, and that I always told people, even now, they're like, the lap bar is not there to keep you like in from falling out, like in a physics standpoint. It's just there so people stop jumping out of the boat. And I always joked, like, when we were there, that we were told, like, before you dispatch, try to get everybody to get their lap bar down. And it was just a lot going on between trying to get people loaded in, I think it was like 15 seconds or whatever the ops time was, and then send that out on its way for the ride. I was like, if there only was a position that like was added to this operation, that like you sent it, and then like before you went up that first lift hill, that there would be some kind of position. And then I haven't been on Tiana's yet, but I was watching a bunch of videos and they've added that exact position. I'm not taking literally any credit for that, but I was like, it was that early like thought process of like, well, if I was going to design this, how would I potentially do this a little bit better to help the ops team, but then also, you know, help safety and all that, all those other important features of going to a theme park. And so that was kind of those moments of like, okay, these are the things that I want to keep in mind for when we actually start building stuff. And so, yeah, I was down there for about 3-4 months. I can remember the length of that. And then I stayed on for a little bit after, and I would pick up shifts at Fantasmic and doing campus representative stuff, trying to recruit students to go do the college program. But on the ops side, I always tell people, if you have the opportunity to go work in a park, if you're in school and you have time that you can take off and go do the college program, I think it's a valuable experience to get in there and learn some stuff, and then you know, get out and apply that stuff to your actual design work.
It's always surprising to me how actually few theme park designers and attraction designers actually have practical ops experience. I mean, it's very rare, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, most of them have the point of view of a guest, and that's fine. But I mean, ops, I think, really adds to, you know, the well-rounded abilities of a attraction designer.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's all stuff that you can add to your toolbox of things as you're, you know, trying to make yourself a better designer or to work better. And there's stuff that, like, projects that I've worked on, you know, Meow Wolf being one of them, you know, that I came onto that project a little bit later after the building had been, you know, the structure itself had been designed, but there were little things where it was like, oh, if we did a layout a little bit differently here, we could have fit a little bit more seamless of a, you know, entrance experience and stuff. And it's like those things that I always am like, I wish I was around a little bit more for that, because that's where that experience would, you know, play in really nicely. But no. So if you have the chance, go work in the parks.
Yeah, you know. It's a lot of people find it fun, and certainly is very educational for designers.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
So you briefly touched on your time at Savannah College Art and Design. I'm assuming you went back there after your tenure at the Disney College program.
Yeah, I was there, and when I went to school down there, that was prior to any of the like blow up of the themed entertainment program. That was not a thing that was going on at the time when I went there. It was down to like that school and like one or two others that I was really gunning for. And then I took a trip to Savannah. I was like, this place alone the city is beautiful, and for that alone, I want to come here. And then it turned out to be a pretty solid school at the same time. But when I went to school, I originally was going for graphic design. I didn't really know what like it was to be a person working in themed entertainment. You know, this was like still prior to a lot of the educational stuff, but the internet didn't like have a ton of things to figure out in the mid to late, you know, 2000s of figuring out, you know, what do I go take a degree in? And so when I went to SCAD, my first like few weeks, they had a thing that was called the major minor fair. And it was basically like, come in, look at all the options we have for programs. And if you want to switch anything, you're in your first couple of weeks, you can switch them. And I went there, and I had run into a bunch of booths and was like, okay, this is kind of like what a designer that might be at, you know, Imagineering or Universal would do. And then eventually ran into a booth that had just the Imagineering logo and the Universal Creative logo. And I was like, well, obviously I'm in the right spot. And I ended up talking to Mike Devine and George Head, two, you know, former WDI and Universal guys that had done just a numerous amounts of work for the parks. And I was like, okay, you guys seem like people I want to talk to. This is what I'm looking to do. You know, would you recommend this? And it turned out being to shift my focus from being a graphic designer to production design. So getting a degree in set design for, you know, film and television. And I knew that I wasn't interested in film and television. I just wanted to do the theme park thing. So I just tailored my education, and my portfolio and all that stuff was just, how do we make stuff? Yeah, for some theater projects, but mainly when I could, it was all, you know, what's a new ride or a gift shop or something like that, and try to, you know, apply the design skills there. So yeah, I spent got my bachelor's in fine arts in production design, and then midway, like going in, I think it might have been my sophomore year, actually coming back from the college program. I met with George at just a one-on-one because I was like, I just have questions for you, and he was like, we're actually starting a themed entertainment master's and minor thing. I was like, goodness, I've picked the right place to be. So I then was able to spend the last 3 years of my time at that school learning from George and Mike and the other really good professors in that department, but being able to focus on the themed entertainment side, but also with getting a minor in themed entertainment design, whatever that really means, but really being able to focus and have people in the room that understood what I was trying to go for, and we were class of 2015, and that I am really proud to have been a part of that, because there's been some really amazingly talented people that have come out of that class alone, and I'm really happy to have found my little spot at SCAD and been a part of a really good group of other students.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I've been to really quite a good school. Yeah, a lot of great people have come out of there over the years. Our friend Bill Keevy is one of those people as well.
Yeah.
So you've worked on a lot of different projects of different sizes and scales. Let's talk about that. And also, another question I wanted to ask too, sort of at the beginning of the conversation-ish, is that you've been an art director and you've been a creative director. For those uninitiated, like, what would you say is the biggest differences between the art director and the creative director?
Yeah, I actually, before we hopped on the call, I was thinking, like, all right, what is the difference between the two? And so I wrote something down, so I'm going to make sure I just read off that. And I had said that the creative director is the keeper of the story and the overall vision of the project, while the art director is the keeper of the design. And then together they work in conjunction to blend both story and design. And I think that's like on the highest level, really what that is. Like, obviously, it's not just like there's just story and then there's design and that's it. There's obviously, as there's music, there's visuals, there's lighting, there's props, there's signage, there's graphics, all this stuff. And all of those sometimes fall under different categories, and maybe one person takes things over another. I'd not really expect an art director necessarily to be working entirely with what the music of the ride is. That's probably a creative director's, under their purview. But I would expect, an art director to make sure that the safety graphics, are matching the aesthetics that, are for whatever the experience is going to be. So I always view, like a creative director, an art director, and a producer usually on like that is your creative leadership of a project. And then it starts to filter down into the different subcategories. And then those categories have their own leaders and whatnot. And then it all kind of funnels up to the top where, 3-4 people that are running the show there are, overseeing what the final vision of the project is, and then making sure that everybody that is working in the smaller little departments below are all funneling their creative energy towards getting that final thing actually built.
Right. That's a really good high level explanation. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like, and then I often end up working with producers, which is another sort of nebulous term.
Yes.
There's different kinds of producers for different kinds of things. Producers for media, producers for audio. One Up of This World. I was working with Ted King. He was my producer. He's the overall audio producer for the entire park, and I was one of several people working on that under him. And I mean, it's every project is different, as we'll get into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Starting with the different scales of projects and how the scale of the project often predetermines sort of how it's going to go, who's going to do what, and it's a big budget, small budget, fast schedule, comfortable schedule. I mean, I can't remember a time that there was a comfortable schedule, but it's always oh, we have too much money and time.
What's that luxury?
It's not a real thing.
No, it's not. It's not.
Let's talk about challenges, projects at different scales, and in your experience with the projects that you've worked on.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I can talk
absolutely.
about that too. As the same thing with music and audio too. Like, do we get an orchestra or do we not?
Yeah. Yeah, in the end, like, we joke about it, but it is definitely a little bit of like the biggest challenge a lot of the time is the budget. First and foremost, it's like the easy slam dunk answer of like, yeah, if a bigger project's usually going to have a little bit more money and a little bit more resources, typically, to build something of a certain scale and size. Doing, having originally, trying to think of different projects that I've worked on of various sizes. Doing something like Volcano Bay was my first project as an intern, when I was interning at Universal Creative back in 2014, and obviously I was on that as an intern and really just sitting there just sketching out ideas of like, here's, they would be like, can you just sketch a bunch of park benches, can you sketch a bunch of light posts, and any of that stuff. So it's just like, we're going to just sketch a bunch of these things, and it's Universal. They are one of the two biggest companies in the industry. They're going to have a bigger budget to play in, and I think that park ultimately reflects that. There's a good budget spent on that park. And then at times, we have to look at something that's a little bit smaller project. I did some while I was at ThinkWell. I was one of the 3D model designers on the oh goodness, the U.S. Marshals exhibit, and like a very well done project. Ultimately, once it opened, but the budget for that is not the same level. So you start to have to figure out how you're going to get resourceful. And I think ultimately, I'm going to keep jumping from different projects, but like the most resourcefulness, even though it was a fairly sizable budget, was Meow Wolf Convergence Station in Denver. When leading that art direction on that project, it really having to get resourceful, and like we can spend the money to get our fabrication partners to build these gorgeous set pieces for us and get those installed. And I remember there were moments in our final installation where we were like, oh goodness, we forgot a hallway that guests are going to walk down, and it was like, can we go, let's just go to Home Depot and spend $50 and try to just figure out something. And that obviously plays a little bit to the Meow Wolf arts and crafts playfulness culture of things, and their DIY philosophy of sorts, that we were able to kind of lean into that, and it works. But not every project is afforded that luxury, both aesthetically, but also what is being desired from the final output of the project.
Right.
But yeah, typically it's the budget is the biggest thing, but in the end, the way the project goes, and the process is all exactly the same. We joked a little bit about the scheduling. Sometimes the timelines are very long, sometimes they're short. Those are typically the things that change depending on scale, or like on the size of the project. But ultimately, in the end, the goal is still the same thing for everything, which is to build a really amazing experience for the guests, and try to make it feel as immersive and realistic as possible wherever we're taking the guest in our experience. Really trying to put a really good product out there that we're all proud of, and to have people come through and check out.
That's cool. Well, let's get into some of these specific projects.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
After your internship, you landed at ThinkWell, right?
I actually,
Oh no,
before that.
Before that it was Rethink, wasn't it?
Yeah. Now I'm quizzing you on my own career. No, yeah, I was at Rethink Leisure and Entertainment. They gave me the opportunity out of school, and came out there, and like that was what got me from the East Coast to the West Coast, and really haven't looked back. But yeah, I was out here working in the Burbank office on Fox World Dubai. Was there with a just like incredible team of people. There's a gazillion of them, so I won't even try to name everybody. But the team, was a lot of students that I had worked with at SCAD, and then a lot of really seasoned professionals that have a really great past of projects in the industry and have continued to do amazing stuff. But yeah, we came in here. I was a show designer for this lovely little park that never happened, sadly. This was prior to the Fox merger with Disney. And obviously, Fox World Dubai, it was in Dubai, but really getting to like get a firsthand experience of, it's a small team building or designing a concept and schematic package for a theme park that ultimately never would get built, but using very interesting properties. We had Planet of the Apes, Sons of Anarchy is the most insane thing I've gotten to work on for a theme park land. All this concept art, also was not done by me. The amazing team at the studio put this together. or at Rethink put it together. But it just kind of shows like, hey, we were thinking really big for a lot of these projects. An attraction for Alien, the Alien horror thriller sci-fi series. And really this was like the first, like, okay, we're out of an internship and now there's like some real responsibility. So I was working with teams on, what's a, Sons of Anarchy land look like in Dubai, where there's a lot of different restrictions that are being put on the project. So how do we make it a family friendly Sons of Anarchy land and all this other stuff? So really that was getting into, being that the teams were small, everybody took on a little bit more work, or responsibility, at least, of what everybody was going to be doing. So we kind of would try to come to the meetings, at least, us designers, with just like, okay, we've thought a little bit further about, what's the load procedures look like? How are we getting people onto said attraction? And it kind of goes back to the ops days of things. But yeah, that was really the early project, was, starting to work on a project in the industry in a real, full-time professional manner. And understand how that place operate, or the industry starts to operate. And that project, while it didn't happen, again, I always am so thankful for that opportunity, because I met like people that I'm still friends with today and work with today. But really, like, it was a great like dive into how the industry works, the ups and downs of all of it. But really just getting your feet wet of being able to go in there and try things out and make things work. Sometimes they don't in the design process, but it was a good primer for what ended up being the other jobs that followed that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that sort of cut their teeth at Rethink, including yourself and Chris Bradley, and Morgan was there for a little while too, I think. Chris,
there he is.
Hi, Chris.
What is that?
Chris does not look like that anymore.
No, he does not. Yeah. There's a jump scare there.
But we love Chris.
Yeah.
I'd love to have Chris back on. He's one of the most talented painters I've ever met. But and so so after Rethink, then you ended up at Thinkwell, right?
Then I ended up at Thinkwell.
Talk about that and some of those projects that you got to work on.
Yeah, no, as the industry goes, there's ups and downs, projects get big, and then there's layoffs and stuff. So I ended up, getting laid off from my role at Thinkwell or Rethink. And I always use that as the talk point of like, not to like scare people or like that are trying to get into the industry, or, it's just the way the world works. But I had over the years had like gotten to know Dave Cobb a little bit and get to meet him, and while Dave was still at Thinkwell. And I remember like just reaching out to everybody, like, I have no job. Anybody can help. And I remember, shooting my stuff over to Dave, and Dave was able to start to spread it out. And I always feel like that's why you network in this industry, is you get to know as many people as you can, become friends with people, because you never know when it's going to work out. Right. And so, thankfully I was able to land over at Thinkwell, and I was there for about 2.5 years in a couple different roles. But I went in originally as a show set designer that knew really nothing about CAD. I was just really solid at SketchUp, and they found a need for that, and really rode that out for a while. So I worked on a few projects, obviously the U.S. Marshal. Well, that came a little bit later, actually. Lionsgate Entertainment World was one project I worked on. One of those projects.
Yeah, I worked on that too. I did the Gods of Egypt coaster.
Okay, yeah. I remember doing some of the entry area 3D modeling for that one as well. Did some of that. A lot of the stuff I had worked on was in the Hunger Games Twilight section of that park, and it's a very fun little park.
I really wanted to do that dark ride, the Twilight dark ride with the weird animatronics and everything. I was so like lobbying to do that, but they French Store is the one who was controlling who was doing what.
I need to get over to check it out, because somewhere there's a Prison Break, is that the name of the show? There's like an escape room attraction based off a movie with like I can't remember what it is. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it. There's an escape room attraction in Lionsgate Entertainment World, and myself and a few of my other like design members are in the attraction in some capacity, and I am like just trying to get over it just to see what way we show up. I know we all played prison guards, and we all have like our mugshot and whatnot, and we have a whole photo shoot. But anyways, my point to saying that is you got to go check it out. But yeah, I got to work on Lionsgate Entertainment World. NFL experience in Times Square was like these early opportunities to work on projects that were theme park like Lionsgate, but also NFL experience was just a really actually I was really happy how it turned out. But like this immersive like learn about the NFL and like both could you like do the NFL. Like there were like different, combine drills. What would you look like in this photo? Yeah, like what does it look like to put on the outfit? And how does your body size, stand up against like the biggest NFL player, and like really putting people in the experience of what an NFL player is like. But aside from that, this was really that early steps of like doing design work for an IP that was eventually going to get built, but also diving into the museum world, I guess, a little bit, and learning about how we're still telling a story, but through interactives and through a museum experience. That was really the first dive into those things. And then while I was there, I had the opportunity really to my first big like leadership creative role was they came to me on a Monday and asked if I wanted to go to China on Friday. And I hopped on the plane and went over to the Thinkwell office in China and worked on a project that was basically redesigning a park that had already, been built. It was already in existence. They were getting a new park next door, and they wanted to kind of bring their older park up to snuff a little bit. And so I worked with the team in China over there to art direct and creative direct, kind of the look and develop a concept deck for what this thing could ultimately turn out to be. They didn't end up actually, I think, going through with too much of it, unfortunately. I don't think the park has changed really since then. I know, shocker.
Shock face.
Yeah, but it was still like a really great opportunity to get out there and like work in a different region of the world and learn how that all operates, but also getting the opportunity to like oversee creative direction and how does it work when you're not really the person doing the drawings that for all the deliverables, or you're focusing on a few other things to put this deck together and to sell this concept to your client. And then came back and was with Thinkwell for a bit longer as a design associate, as they like to call it, and really just doing a lot more 3D modeling and concept development for other projects. U.S. Marshals was one of those projects that ended up happening. Blanking on every other project that happened during that time there, but those were the big ones really. And then then my time there was lovely. I met again a lot of really amazing people. And then kind of was like, okay, it's time to move on and find another challenge out there.
Yeah, that's great. And then you ended up at Meow Wolf and started doing some really interesting work there. And I'd love to learn more about. We've talked offline about this stuff, but I think that the specific role that you played there, I think was really interesting and wholly unique to the Meow Wolf structure and brand and ethos.
Definitely.
You could talk a little bit about or a lot about your work with Meow Wolf and how outside art director comes in and helps facilitate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I will. Actually, one thing we did skip on actually is I left Thinkwell and actually went to Universal Creative out in Hollywood first. And that role was there a very short period of time for numerous reasons, but the time that I was there, I was able to work on the Jurassic World redo.
That's right.
And Dark Arts at Hogwarts Castle. And I only bring this up just briefly because again, I was only there for about a year. But during this time, really was like that first time really getting to be on site and figuring out like how does a construction site work? I had never really been on one before. How does what's the day-to-day meetings go like? How in this role, I was the show set designer for creative show quality. Which is a long title. And basically the easy way of just saying we were documenting everything that was being built in the park, and when things needed to be cleaned up, came back through and found ways to make sure that the park was looking great for everybody that was coming through. And the main point of bringing that, and I'll lead this right into the Meow Wolf conversation, was while I was there was the on-site stuff. It was really where I got to learn a lot because I was sitting there documenting stuff and just writing down every day like, okay, well they're painting this with this painting technique, and then like I would just take like long videos of the people sculpting the rock work for the different area development outside of the Jurassic World arches, and putting all that stuff together, realizing like, okay, I understand how this is happening now. Like I might not be able to go out there and sculpt rock work, but I understand like the conversations that are being had to facilitate from paper to actual design. And then leading into the Meow Wolf side of things, that was pretty wild. Coming into Meow Wolf, it was not at the time. It was just House of Eternal Return. Denver had been announced, Convergence Station and Omega Mart in Las Vegas had been announced, but nothing really had happened yet. This was 2019. Construction was either just about to start on both, or I should say I'm lying now. Denver's building was starting to go up, but it was really just the framework of what the building was. And I'll talk specifically about Denver because that's the one I worked on. But basically, the Denver project, coming in on that, took a little bit of time to gain a little bit of the trust of people at Meow Wolf. Again, Meow Wolf was this artist, or it still is this artist collective of people that are out in New Mexico building these really immersive but interactive spaces that are a little DIY. They're very imaginative, but they're a lot of time very resourceful. If you've ever watched the Meow Wolf origin story documentary, they talk about how like parts of this, the original experience in Santa Fe, they found a couch on the side of the road and bam, they cleaned it up, and that's now going to be in the experience because they were just being resourceful. So coming in and being an art director for this project, this was my first time really getting the title of full-time art director on a project that was going to go and open up. How am I going to try to like bring the theme park knowledge and the very polished look of the theme park world to a experience that's not very much that, but still in needing to be professional at the same time. And so really it took a long time to kind of gain trust. We did a trip down to Orlando actually with a lot of the creative leadership. And during that time we had a lot of conversations, and I think that definitely helped me being able to like speak to the stuff that was there on the theme park sense and helping them to kind of connect the dots and realize like, okay, what we're doing is still themed entertainment. It's still in the same world. And the process is exactly the same. The output is just going to be visually different.
Yeah, but we have a certain way of doing things.
Exactly.
And there's really, really good reasons for it generally.
Yeah, exactly. And
and not the least of which is like life safety and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Showing like, well, we do need to put like ADA compliance throughout the experience, right, and making sure we're figuring for all that. But then at the same time showing them that like we can use vendors that are within the themed entertainment industry typically, and they will produce what we're looking for. Convergence Station is huge. It's 4 stories. It's about 90,000 square feet of exhibit space. So like the way of, how they built House of Eternal Return was not going to be able to be done on a project of that scale. We were going to need to find outside help to deliver this project. And really, getting them to understand, okay, this is how we're going to do it, and these people we can trust. And then the pandemic hit, which was great. And then we all went online and worked on designing this thing the rest of the way. But, again, the art direction for that, I found that was really where I started to find like what my best, voice as an art director was. And I've worked with plenty of amazing art directors. Some art directors will, give you a little sketch and then they'll be like, go for it. Some people will give you exactly what they want and like stand over your shoulder and tell you exactly where to draw lines. And my thing was like, I always hated the latter of those things. I don't want somebody telling me what, this thing has to exactly look like. I'm a designer. I went to school. I know what I'm talking about. And so I always viewed that as an art director going into this. That's what I wanted to do is, hey, we have this space in Convergence Station. What do you think this should look like? I have got some ideas. Here's some mood boards. Here's a couple of quick doodles I put together, but like you run with it. And if your thing's cooler, we're going to go with that. And I think that's where I started to also gain, some trust from people where they were realizing, like, okay, cool. I'm not going to just plow through and just be like, I'm, supreme ruler of the creative and art direction here.
Yeah, you're not going to steamroll them.
Exactly. And I think that's, one of the big things for people looking to get into the, art or creative direction side of things is, the role is not for somebody that's looking to be maybe the designer all the time. Like, I think I always tell students, if you're interested in art direction or creative direction, like a lot of the time you're spending, in meetings basically, and you're not actually out there doing any, sketches or drawings yourself. It's a lot of like you're, relaying information to the rest of the project leadership and making sure that goes well. But also, overseeing everybody else, but also like needing to let other people just do their job and let them design and be, designers on their own. Yeah,
like an art referee.
Yeah, exactly. Like I in every project I've done since, it's, that's kind of been the mentality is like, you can design this stuff too. Like, I'm just going to make sure, like, I know what the final product needs to look like. We knew what the render, like what Convergence Station was going to need to look like. We knew what the budget, we knew what the schedule was going to be. We knew the timelines, and it was quick, and you throw a pandemic in there. So we knew we had to kind of just go with it. And we had to make decisions quick. And with that, you have to trust the people that you're working with to make good design choices, and then eventually be able to execute them. And you're just there along the way, making sure that you can provide a yes or a no, and then feedback if it's the no, to finish the project and make it, look like what it's supposed to look like.
Right. So how did it work as an art director, as an art referee, working with the actual like local artists who were in charge of their own areas of the installation, and I'm sure had a whole bunch of ideas of their own about how it was going to go and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that process was very interesting, and you never get a project like that in the typical themed entertainment world, where you bring in outside artists to then take over a decent chunk of the space in a experience to do what they want, more or less. And basically we had a call out for local artists in Denver to apply and submit proposals for a thing, more or less. What do they want to produce? Without them knowing what the story of Convergence Station was. They had no idea when they applied what anything was going to be. And we had just hundreds of applicants. We sifted through them, found different artists that we wanted to work with, and then found places that within the experience that they were going to fit, both narratively. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it was just like, we love their work. We want to get it in here. We're going to find a way to make it fit the space. But once we selected everybody, we actually had a whole big unveiling party in Denver that we then told them, like, cool, you've all been accepted, great. Now this is what we're building. And we had this whole 20-minute long fly through of the experience. Breaking down the story and what we were actually going to build. And that was the first time they understood, oh, wow, I had no idea, there's a city street that looks like Blade Runner in here. Didn't realize that when I proposed I was going to make a salon that aliens, are the employers of, that it was going to fit perfectly. So we found people like that. And then basically they had a space, in their proposal, they had their budgets and all that other stuff. And then we gave them, a very limited amount of time on site, and they had to install it basically. And for the most part, we gave them the resources that they needed, but they put it together and then offsite, brought it inside, did the actual final install. And then we, taped it up and left it until we need to get, close to programming and then opening day. But for the most part, we had a whole team of artist liaisons, as we called them, that worked specifically with the external artists. And my role as art director was really not doing anything with them, bluntly. It was a lot of like, do you need any help? How are things going? At times in meetings, we would give some feedback of like, have you thought about doing it like this potentially? Or adding little things here and there. But for the most part, we left that entirely for them to be able to do, hey, you've been selected to do your thing. This is your exhibit space. And I think that's something that needs to be done more just in themed entertainment in general. I had seen, I think when Tiana's was being constructed down at Disney World, they had talked about they brought in an iron worker to do some of the wind vanes for the attraction itself. And I find when we were doing that with Denver, by bringing in artists from the local area, it gives a sense of place for these people. And it gives the people that maybe are struggling to find their voice in the art community, in this case in Denver, a place that they can feel like that is their home, that is something that they're proud of, and continue to swap in new artists when we see fit and add new things. But it allows outside of the okay, we're going to just build this for the theme park. This is it's just a like a project, I guess is the best way of saying it. We're actually bringing some life into it from people that are experts at something else that really is, pretty freaking cool, and find a way to, integrate that into the rest of the experience. I think, there's obviously, a lot that could be learned from that, and hopefully we see more of that in themed entertainment. But yeah, my role with working with the external artists, there were about 140 of them. There was a whole lot of them, and they were all, really lovely to work with, and got to include them into the space.
I know that this is one of those projects where you filled a lot of different roles, not just as art director. I'd love if you could tell the audience the book story that you told me.
The book story. Oh my gosh. Which one is this again?
Like getting all the books for one of the.
Oh my gosh! Yes. Oh yes. That book story. Yes. Yeah. So there's towards the obviously the pandemic was going on, so we're designing this stuff, and budgets are not all over the place, but we're still trying to figure out where we're allocating money as we're designing, because we're not in the same room anymore. We're not in the shop where we're able to figure out how much stuff is going to cost very quickly and build it ourselves or any of that stuff. And so in Convergence Station, there's a library that is a integral piece to the narrative of the experience, if you play the whole narrative game portion of the experience. And we were we have this idea for a book cave. We wanted the room to be just filled with columns of books, and we had gone to different fabricators, and the pricing was just not fitting what we had the ability to spend. And so Chadney Everett, who was the senior creative director on the project, had come to myself and one of my other designers in the field. I was like, this is the idea. I have a quick little sketch. Can we make this? And we kind of figured out how many books we might need of physical books to build this, these different columns, but also this cave that a couch was going to sit in. And we, found, basically, I spent some time on eBay basically and found a guy that happened to also be in Denver that was just selling thousands of books out of his house. And we rented a U-Haul truck, pulled up to his front yard, and we spent, no joke, the entire day taking books from one truck and then loading them into the next truck, and then just dumping them in over and over. And it was a very long 8 hours of book transferring, but ultimately took those things, brought them on site, dumped them into a different box, and then we built it just on site, coated it in all the fire retardant material, so that way it was going to pass all the coating. But that was a little bit to that spirit of Meow Wolf of well, we got to figure this out. We got to just this has got to be in here because it's going to be a cool piece, but it's integral to the story. So let's figure out how to do it. And sometimes it's finding somebody on eBay and pulling that together. And we use eBay offer up all the time to just I need a couch. Here's a chair. Great. Let's just go pick it up and throw it in the back of someone's car and get it in there. And that's, I think, there's art direction where you're doing stuff in a studio environment where you're overseeing the actual designs and stuff. And then there's field art direction, which is just, art direction with your hair on fire, where you're trying to still make sure that what you're building is what you drew, but then at the same time, it's a construction project. So stuff's going to go wrong. And you've got to figure out how to make decisions on the move really, really quickly and hope that it doesn't, screw you up weeks down the line. But then also, at the same time, we want to build this thing that we weren't thinking about 5 months ago. So now we got to go build it. So the days are a little crazy like that. But I think that adds to you get such a rush really from doing that kind of work where you're building something creative. But then you have all these challenges to kind of overcome while hoping that the whole thing looks pretty good at the same time. So yeah, I will gush on and on about my time with Meow Wolf, but specifically, the team that I got to work with on Convergence and what that project ultimately turned out to be, because I think that's I love that thing, so I'm very proud of it.
Well, I mean, it was recently announced that we're getting a Meow Wolf here in LA.
Yeah.
Over on the west side. So
yeah,
I'll probably never go to it. But
yeah, we'll have to all get in the car and make the 3-day trip over to the west side and find a way to get in there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that, and who knows, maybe you might get to work on it.
Yeah, call me, guys. No.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. If you're watching.
Yeah.
Bring Justin back. Hashtag bring Justin back.
Hashtag bring Justin. No. No, no, whoever's working on it, they're gonna kick butt with it. I say this all the time. You know, after I left Meow Wolf, you know, they're the biggest fan and rooting for them for whatever they do. So I'm very excited to see that there's gonna be something in our distant backyard, but still close enough by that I get to kind of be in the same sphere of the Meow Wolf world.
Yeah, it's
And
actually like
excited.
15 or 16, maybe 20 miles max from where I'm sitting right now, but
Yeah.
it's another world away.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm stoked. I'm excited to see what they've got cooking, and yeah, no, it's gonna be fun.
So after Meow Wolf, you ended up working on the OC Vibe, which is
OC
a whole big project that's slowly coming to fruition for down in Orange County by Angel Stadium.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up with that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was after I came back from Meow Wolf, moved back from Denver, came here back to LA, and was looking for something, and got contacted by who was going to eventually be my boss. She had found me on LinkedIn, and we kind of had just like stalked each other for a little bit, and was like, "You want to interview?" And cool, I'm looking for a job. And really, it was a fascinating kind of change, especially anything coming out of Meow Wolf was going to be a weird change. But going from like the very weird Meow Wolf to a little bit more of the like corporate but very sports world of design is the absolute opposite ends of the design world. And while, so I came on to OC Vibe, which later is the name of the project, but our division was OC Sports and Entertainment. I came on as the senior art director for this project and worked with, again, some of the most talented people out there. We basically, this is a many acre. I don't want to give them a number because I can't think of it off the top of my head and misnumber it. A very, very large outdoor retail, shopping, dining, entertainment complex that's being built around the Honda Center down in Orange County, just a few miles away from Disneyland. And this thing's got hotels, shopping, dining, the whole thing. And basically, right now, this space, although now dirt is moving, prior to this was just a lot of surface parking and a lot of nothing going on around here. So the goal for the Anaheim Ducks and their ownership was to create this, is to create this downtown hub for Orange County, really give it the sense of place. And then also, provide an entertainment experience. That way, when you go to the Honda Center to watch, the Ducks play or go to a concert or any of that, that you can go and grab a bite to eat or, stick by afterwards and go to the sports bar and get a drink with your friends. Or if you're coming in from out of town, there's hotels, all this stuff. And so my role on the project was working primarily, we were in the DXT, the Digital Experience Development team, but really working on both digital and physical experiences that we could bring into the space. I actually was talking to somebody this morning about this, and not to poo-poo any architects in the thing, but a lot of time architect stuff is not always the most exciting thing that's being built. It has a purpose, and that's really what it is, or what they're building for. And our team is coming in and, how are we making a parking garage a little bit more exciting? Is there a way to amp people up for, a drop off, for Uber drop off? What's the thought process of making these things a little bit more exciting, a little bit more experiential? And that's what our team was working on to develop. So bringing in, interactive art pieces, new, restaurant concepts. How are we, from signage, wayfinding, all of that stuff, to then working on concepts for in arena. How are we, what's the, best thing out there? What are the, competitors in the NHL doing, and how could we do that better? And trying to just bring a team, into the modern era as they, continue to build their team up. We wanted to build the area around the stadium up, so that way, as the team really started to hit their stride, hopefully in the next couple of years here, that the area around it, there's a lot of excitement and people are coming to this district to hang out. It was a lovely 2.5 years. Again, things happen, and there are layoffs that come through, and that was the end of my time at OC Vibe. But again, I was actually down in the area a couple weeks ago, and I had seen some dirt was getting moved around. So very excited to see what ends up happening or not happening, and excited to see what gets built, and hopefully some of the stuff that our team worked on, at least influences some things that ultimately got built. But outside of that, again, kind of speaking to the sports side of things, it's again the same process. Budgets are all over the place, compared to other things that are in themed entertainment, but the design process is the same way we're making deliverables, doing mock-ups, any of that stuff, all the same process, whether it be for a Meow Wolf or, Universal and Jurassic World, to doing something for an NHL team. The way you art direct, the way you creative direct, the way you design anything is all the same. It's just really understanding what the guest is going to be looking for, and then ultimately what, experience you want to provide for them, and what's going to be cutting edge but also impactful, and all those other things. It's just understanding your IP or what you're designing for, and then finding ways to make it unlike anything that's out there, in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that too. I hope it comes to fruition as well. I mean, that area has been long in need of a redevelopment. Especially post COVID now, with that big theater closed for so long, and then, like you said, it's all just like been surface parking and a little train station, and then Angel Stadium, across the concrete desert. I actually, in a couple of weeks, I take a yearly trip with some friends from high school, and we're big baseball fans, so we go around the country and we go check out different stadiums and go to games. And like, it was a perfect blend for me to end up on that project, being that I enjoy that stuff. But it's very much interesting, and for anybody that's out there that's interested in that stuff, it's a growing brand of things. SoFi Stadium and that area is being continually developed with the Intuit Dome out here in LA, LA Live, all of these things, and so everybody's. All the sports owners are trying to find ways to like make a theme park experience around their sports team, because it just brings them more money, but also like it's creating this all day experience for you to go and check out. Dodger Stadium just recently got redone a couple of years ago, so I think gorgeous. It's really amazing. And I think there's a world outside of things, and this is a slight tangent, but I always like to throw this in here as well. Is like, as people try to get into themed entertainment, it is a very small and niche industry, and there's not always opportunities out there, and you're always waiting for whatever that next thing could be. But there are places that for people that are trying to break into the industry, students, any of that stuff, like you can find ways to still do this kind of work, just as I call it, theme park adjacent. Like go work for a company like Populous, who does experiential design for theaters and sport arenas and stadiums. They're going to give you a really amazing opportunities to be able to go out and design stuff that are still using the same principles as themed entertainment. And then when opportunities come, you hop into the industry. But the industry is so up and down all the time, which is a pro and con to working in it. But I don't say that as a that's a negative. It's it's just the reality of it. But it's just how it is. But to find those other opportunities that are adjacent to things like that, from whether it be sports stadiums to like experiential marketing is huge, especially right now. Like go and do that kind of stuff. And I think that's as I've been out in the world, looking for whatever that next gig is, the limits are not just themed entertainment. It's what is out there that is just really cool stuff to design, that is using the expertise that I've gained over these last few years, and then applying them to hopefully into a themed entertainment industry. But if not, what other industries out there that's interested in using those things, because there are people out there that are looking for it, and using those things in other places. Well, you answered my last question.
I know. I got ahead of you.
Yeah, no, it's good. Advice to up and coming professionals, and I think that's great advice. And it's like everybody wants to work for Disney and Universal and everything like that, but there's literally hundreds of peripheral companies and opportunities to get you there if that's where you want to go.
And I think, and a lot of the time, as like people are coming out and trying, like, of school or trying to get into the industry, working for those smaller companies or those other places, you're going to get more opportunity to do more design work, which gets you more experience, and then you can find your way around a little bit easier, I think. And that's bluntly from just experience myself of hopping from, I've been at companies no more than like 2.5 years, not by choice all the time, but it's, by being able to jump from place to place and finding that right next opportunity has allowed me to be able to like, oh, I can learn some stuff from here and from here and from here, and then I can kind of see how this all plays to a bigger picture. That's, ultimately, for each person to figure out whether, direction of where they're looking to go is going to go. But, I think, it's not bad by any means to start small and then, have those goals of getting to, some of the big places. But it's ultimately what you're looking to try to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and, the amount of design work you're maybe trying to deliver on.
Yeah. Manage expectations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's been great. I really enjoyed chatting with you about your wide and varied career. I have two more questions. Number one, well, one statement, one question.
Okay.
I shout out to your Big Owl lamp behind you.
Yes. Yeah.
I love your Big Owl.
There are a bunch of little, over the years, like I said, I've collected little bits of theme park merch. I've got a Henry over there. There's a Sleeping Beauty Castle, a bunch of different things all over this little office space. But yeah, that's the
and then is that a theme park scented candle?
This one's not. This one's just from Target, but my wife bought it for me because it just says artsy on it. And apparently artsy smells like tobacco and amber to inspire creativity. But outside of that, yeah, there's a Star Tours vehicle here. There's a bunch of stuff, and I've got way too much of it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Justin, thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you about all that, and hopefully everybody found that interesting. And a lot of really good advice, and it's sort of like what Marty Sklar used to say, which was learn about everything and anything. And art director is a really great position to make the best of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think thanks for having me on, and yeah, for anybody that's looking to try to get into it, find like what that thing you're interested in doing. And if it's being a designer, go be a designer. If you want to do more leadership and creative management stuff, maybe art direction or creative directions for you. But yeah, thanks again for having me on. If anybody's watching or listening, feel free to follow me on all the socials and all that fun stuff. And always
I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't already follow you.
Well, if anybody, I always love getting some new followers. No.
But
well,
yes, it was great.
It's
Thank you so much for coming on, and
thank you
for having on again.
Yeah.
And thanks as always to our producer Charlie. I think CJ had a hand in this too, maybe, but I don't know. But yeah, Charlie Rao, our producer, did a great job getting this all together. And so stay tuned. 2 more episodes to episode 100, where we'll have surprise guests, prizes, giveaways. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there right now. But no, it's great. Thanks so much, Justin, and we'll see you all at the next one.
Woo.